How's it going, you guys? So in this video, with the sun glaring in my eyes and the planes roaring over my head, I'm going to be discussing whether or not intelligence is genetic. Is intelligence genetic, or is it something that is mostly built through experience and through repetition and practice? So I've been thinking about this for a long time, and to be honest with you, naturally, I personally feel like intelligence is not a genetic trait. I feel like intelligence is mostly something that can be built. I think that it is, like, the level of intelligence that one possesses is dictated and created by their upbringing, by all of the things that influence them in their childhood. That can be TV shows, that can be uncles and aunts that are around them, that can be parents and the way parents react to their child, and really the way that the child reacts to its environment. Many people aren't aware, but essentially, children don't learn through words. Children learn from their environment's reaction to the child's action, okay? So for example, if a child kicks its dad in the leg and the dad kicks a child back, the child is going to, over time, develop the idea that that's the consequence. If I kick my dad, then I'm going to get kicked, you know? And so another example would be if a child is crying in public and the parent spanks the child for crying, then the child is going to assume that every time it cries, it's going to get hit, it's going to get spanked, it's going to get punished, okay? And of course that can manifest itself into mental illness in the future, because a child is going to be suppressing its emotion, because it's going to be scared of getting hit anytime it expresses its emotion, okay? Compare that to if a child is crying in public and you tell it, don't cry, there's no reason to cry. The child hasn't even begun to develop its logical brain yet. That doesn't happen until at least, 12 to 16 years old. So anyway, this is the mechanism behind how our childhood shapes our perspective of the world, okay? This is just only the beginning. Sorry if you guys can't see me, if the lighting is really fucked up. It's because it's really sunny outside. I'm recording in my car. I guess this is a creepy angle, right? Anyway, so depending on how the parents molded that child's perspective, it can create a growth mindset or it can create a fixed mindset. And a growth mindset is basically just the perspective that where you are right now is not where you're going to be. Like, skills can be learned, behaviors can be changed, and you are open to growth. Whereas a fixed mindset means you believe I am depressed or I am stupid, and that's never going to change, okay? And this idea that intelligence is genetic is the greatest example of a fixed mindset. So, I mean, it really appears like intelligence is genetic, but through my own experiences and my own research on neuroplasticity and growth mindset and grit, I can tell you, I was a very ignorant person back in 2010, 2011. And then 2012, I had an extremely traumatic experience that opened my mind and made me start to research and study and develop myself. And now you fast forward to 2019 now, and I'm a completely different person. But the thing is, I know that I've changed so much, but I see the world around me and all the people that I used to hang out with compared to now, and it's like we're living in two completely different worlds, mentally and physically and energetically. Like, I can't talk to them on the same level that I can talk to a lot of other people. You know, generally I have the best discussions with, you know, people that have degrees in science. Not that that means you're intelligent or anything, but they're more intellectually developed. And, you know, so anyway, I think that I think to some degree it could be genetic, but I think that ultimately it is nurture over nature. It is a skill you can develop. Also, I think it might be genetic to some extent. I think that some people have better developed prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for executive function. And I think that, you know, that could be due to the mother's nutrition before and during pregnancy, the saturation of fatty acids such as DHA and EPA, which is directly linked to intelligence and IQ, and various other nutritional factors. And I think maybe, you know, genetics do play a role in the physical brain and its development and the capacity to learn. And by the way, my definition of intelligence, because many people have a skewed perception of that, I think there can be two solid definitions. The first one, which is most accurate, is the capacity to learn, which means like just how much potential do you have to stuff informations and skills into your brain, the capacity. And then I think the other definition is more along the lines of somebody who is smart or has a lot of knowledge, not necessarily intelligence. And that definition would just be how much somebody knows and how much knowledge one has. But I don't think that the amount of knowledge you have currently is intelligence. I believe intelligence, by definition, is a capacity to learn and to develop new skills. So what is your potential to learn rather than what have you already learned? And I think that regardless of genetics, most people's capacity to learn is much higher than anybody ever figures it out. I think most people just never embark on the journey of developing intelligence and developing themselves and developing their perspective. And I think that most people are trained to be closed-minded. Most people are living their entire lives from their emotional brain, which I believe is the amygdala, but I'm not sure. I need to re-look at all that, reread all that. It's been a while. When your emotional brain is turned on, it directly turns off the prefrontal cortex, the frontal lobe, the part of your brain that's responsible for critical thinking. And when critical thinking is turned off, for example, if you imagine when you're angry, you can't think right. You know, you're a different person when you're angry. Same thing when you're sad. When people are super depressed, they can't think right. You know, they're not thinking about all the possibilities in the world. They're thinking about the depressive thoughts. The reason is because extreme emotions turn off the thinking brain. And when your thinking brain's turned off, you can't think logically. And if you can't think logically, and that part of the brain is turned off, if every single day, the majority of your day, you're stuck in hardcore emotions, anger, sadness, resentment, annoyance, then the part of your brain required for developing intelligence is turned off like most of the time. So it's impossible for you to ever develop your intelligence if you're constantly stuck in those deep emotions. And so, again, I think it mostly is environmental. But I think that you know, most people, even if they have like lesser intelligence genetically, I think that they could still develop themselves far beyond what they ever do. And I think that most people never rise up to their fullest potential and never even try to develop it. And therefore, whether it's genetic or not, most people don't even become, you know, the 50 points higher on their IQ that they possibly could, because they just don't work on it. So leave your questions and comments down below. I think that there's so many ways to develop intelligence, and I know throughout my life, you know, when I was in elementary, I had an abnormally high IQ level, and it fluctuated throughout my childhood. And I don't care about tests. Another thing is, and I believe it can be developed or it can be lost if you don't practice that skill. And another thing is there's multiple types of intelligence. There's environmental intelligence, there's mathematical intelligence, musical intelligence. But anyway, I'll talk to you all in the next video.